Hi everybody, happy Monday. I know that seems like an oxymoron, but I think Mondays should be happy. I think we should celebrate the start of a new week, fresh opportunity, new possibility. We should dance our way into the week, not, begrudgingly meet it. I've resolved to set the pace and tone of my week with this discussion about respect, and I hope you'll join me for the ride. This is one part of my Elul practice, is trying to make my days more fulfilling and more meaningful, and Mondays are definitely not my most meaningful or fulfilling days. They're usually like chicken without a head cut off kind of day. So as we approach Rosh Hashanah, I am trying out this new thing where I make Mondays happy. And Gesher makes me happy, and writing makes me happy, and discussing these topics make me happy. So Monday it is. So we're going to jump right into a really intense and complicated topic. At least I think it's an intense and complicated topic. And, I'll preface by saying that I spoke to a lot of people this week in preparation to discuss this topic. And everyone had a difficult time putting their finger on the pulse of this issue. I couldn't really define what it was that I was trying to say. My friends really couldn't figure it out either. I asked so many people this week what they think respect means, for themselves in a way with which they interact with the world, and everybody was kind of dumbfounded when I brought up the subject. Like when I asked my husband the question, he just looked at me for like 5 minutes and he was like, "Why do you have to ask me such hard questions?" Which is, I got that response from a lot of people in varying degrees, which is shocking to me, but also not so shocking, because if you think about the kinds of things that we've discussed in this project so far, values and happiness and divine providence, all of these things have these loosely defined meanings, and we all kind of know what they are, and we live our lives with them, but not really, like not in a meaningful way. And so what we're going to discuss today is respect and what it really means. If you recall, last week we discussed values, and how values light our way. So when they're used correctly, our values help us elevate our sense of self, and they provide, a more of a steady path to guide us on our journeys. So that's how they're used correctly. When they're used incorrectly, they become a tool to weld hurt and shame on others, and maybe even shame on ourselves. And I want to propose that there's a universal truth that we can all use to keep our values in line and keep ourselves in line. And I think that value, that universal value, is respect. So what is respect? Well, the textbook definition is a feeling of deep admiration for someone or something elicited by their abilities, qualities, or achievements, which is like a cute, that's like, I'll give credit where credit is due. That's not a bad definition. But I don't think it encompasses that grounding, unifying element of what respect should be. Respect is about a relationship between two people, how we treat each other despite our differences or disagreements. And I have to say, I think collectively, universally, we're doing a really crappy job at it. If that's what real respect is, treating each other with kindness and humility, regardless of our disagreements, we are doing a bad job. All any of us want is to be respected and, to be seen or heard as we are. So where do we start to pick up the pieces? The world is in such utter chaos. It seems like the only thing we know how to do is disrespect each other. I want to put my foot down. I do not want to have a role in this game. I'm not interested in the game of disagreement or disrespect. If you think about collectively what the world is like, you turn on the news in the morning. I can't even read the news anymore because all I see is just people taking stabs at each other. And, opinions and who's right, who's wrong. Okay, like we can go into conversations about that for days and hours, but that's not the point. The point is, where have we lost respect for ourselves and for other people? I think that respect comes from a sense of presence of oneself and with your higher spiritual energy. So in my vocabulary, in my life as an Orthodox observant Jew, that means, my relationship with God. So respect starts for me from building a relationship with my higher spiritual source, which is Hashem or God. Maybe for you that means mountain biking at sunrise or cooking an intensely delicious bowl of pasta. Whatever your form of a higher spiritual practice is good for you. Awesome. But what happens is we start developing a sense of respect when we're present with ourselves and with our source. So in order to respect other people and have a relationship with outside of yourself where you feel respected and can give respect, You know, it starts with recognizing your higher source. So I don't, for me, the times that I feel most respected, if I'm talking to someone, right, and they have their phone out and they're texting and they're, swiping up on on Instagram and looking at everybody's videos and I don't even know what, checking email, reading the news, taking a selfie, you don't feel respected when someone's doing that to you, right? That's a sign of disrespect. They don't care enough to listen to what you have to say, and your voice doesn't matter. And I do that too. Somebody will be talking to me and I'll get a text and I'll pick up my phone and I'm like, oh, well, this is obviously more important than the human being who's standing right in front of me, which is wrong. So, we're mirrors of each other. People are mirrors that reflect you, and you are a mirror that reflects God. We're taught that we are made in the image of the divine. So if you're made in the image of the divine, doesn't that go the same? Doesn't that say the same for other people? And I think, so what this really comes down to is, in order to understand interpersonal relationships and what it means to respect people within interpersonal relationships, we really have to understand the relationship between God or the divine and man. There's a concept in Judaism that I really love about serving God from a place of love and fear. So when I hear fear, I think of this like omnipresent God watching and judging cruelly from on high, smiting people with a metal rod in his hands. That's not the kind of fear we're talking about here. The kind of fear that we're supposed to elicit, that, like the emotion of fear that is supposed to be elicited within our bodies when we think of our relationship with God, is more of like an awe, like this awe-inspiring presence of like your heart opening and soul warming, like, wow, God is amazing and I revere his presence and therefore I will act. So awe or fear of God comes from recognizing what is done for us, that God, in his infinite wisdom and endless resources, chose to give you life and be present with you. It's the kind of fear that opens you up to vulnerability, kind of brings you to your knees and makes you say, yes, I want more of this amazing feeling. It's the awe of knowing that we've been seen and heard by a higher power. So when do we lose respect? When we stop connecting to our higher source and the higher source in other people, that's when you lose respect. And that's where values start to be abused. That's where you use your value and your elevated sense of self to bash people over the head. You can't respect someone if you don't see the humanity in them, and you can't see the humanity in them if you don't see their higher power. So if you want to learn about respecting others, you start by looking at yourself in the mirror and recognizing your highest godly power. If you're a mirror image of God, that means that other people are. And so when you look at other people, you're really looking at a reflection of yourself. The beginning of your relationship with God starts with reverence and then love. And I think the same can be said of our relationships with other people. When we revere and respect their highest levels, we can build healthy, meaningful relationships with other people, regardless of whether or not we agree with them. I think the issue with respect that I keep coming back to is people think that in order to respect someone, you have to be on the same page with them. You don't. Because inevitably, you're not going to be on the same page with most of the people that you come into contact with if you stay in your little inner circle and you stay in your bubble of people who think exactly like you, then it's super easy to respect other people. But when you step out of that bubble and you go out into the world and people have different opinions, people, practice different things, it could be a difference of religion, difference of opinion, a difference of lifestyle choices. When you choose to see that person as completely, wholly different than you and having seeing no reflection of yourself in that person, you lose respect. And that's because you don't see who they are at their highest source. And I know that's really hard to do because we're people. And it's really hard to look at someone who you disagree with or who, whatever, and looking at them and saying like, oh, they have some kind of a higher spiritual source in them, which I should be respecting. I really think that in order to respect other people, you have to start by looking inward and understanding what your relationship is to a higher source. And from there, that's when you can recognize and respect other people. And the reason for this awe, fear, love relationship with God is in order to perform mitzvot or, good deeds from a higher place and to accomplish more. The relationship with God is about the kinds of ways that we can bring spirituality into everyday things. And I think that reflects with our relationships with others as well. So, you have this self-respect based on a relationship with the divine. Like, now what? So what do you do with that? There's a lot you can do with that. And that's what we're going to be discussing today on the Gesher Project. We're going to be going into a deeper discussion on the respect between self and others and how we can combine the two methods of respect to create healthier, more meaningful engagement with the world, with other people, with yourself, with everybody. And I know this sounds like a super hippy-dippy, like let's all hold hands and, skip through the grass singing Beatles songs. But really, I think this is the defining factor that's missing from our reality. This is what's missing from our society. We can't value other people if we don't know what respect is. So head over to the Gesher Project. We're going to be diving deeper into respect between yourself, between people, between God. It's an awesome conversation. I hope you'll join me. You guys are awesome. Let's go onwards.